right, so I'm Braden Starver. I actually go to Morehouse College. I'm an applied physics major, concentrating in mechanical engineering. I was a 4-year A student, so I started back in ninth grade, all the way to senior year. I won for the Western PA. I won the challenge my senior year. I lost all the other three times, but I got it the third time. Um, what else about me? Uh, yeah, I got selected for the Denver trip. Um, I I actually got that all in like a combination. So the night when we were doing our final project, we did our little presentation, and then they went over the awards. I won the A scholarship. I won the Denver trip, and I also won the challenge. So that was probably one of my best moments in high school. But just to talk a little bit more about the Denver trip, um, when it was kind of like a wonky adventure. Um, I started off waking up like 4 a.m., something like that. The plane was pretty, like, the plane schedule was pretty crazy. I got there, I was like 2 hours earlier than everyone else. Uh, then people started showing up. I was the first one at the camp as well. I was driven by who was it? I can't remember.
Or like Leo
Yeah,
or
yeah.
Carrie.
I
Yeah.
was driven over there. Um, but yeah, the first day was pretty fun. You want me to just kind of go down my whole adventure?
Yeah, sure. Just, yeah, that's perfect.
Okay. So yeah, um, the first day was pretty fun. We started off again. I was like 2 hours early, so I was the only one there for like 2 hours. A couple people started showing up, and it turned out those couple people that showed up would be like my best friends throughout the entire adventure. It was the Denver trip. It was basically a um kind of like, how do I even explain it? Um, where do I start? That's the thing. Where do I start? I'll just start with the project. So the project was a studio design build. We basically had to build like a vertical tower. The story was since the world is getting a little bit more populated, a little bit more overpopulated, uh, we kind of based our inspiration off of like, oh, I hear an echo. All right. We kind of based our inspiration off of the Ready Player One. You guys ever read that book? Yeah, we based that off. So like those vertical trailers. We we looked at a couple conceptual designs of the future of like how we would do residential, industrialization, government stuff in one area, in like a vertical tower that could hold like 100,000 people. So they tasked like me and 30 other people to do that. The leaders of that was Adam Wagner and Rebecca Wagner. Were those their names? Yeah,
Yep,
they
got
they
it.
ran. Yeah, they ran what firm? The further firm, like
Gensler,
further
and then
architecture.
yeah, and Adam had his own firm as well.
Yeah. So they tasked us with building that vertical tower throughout the week. Um, it was pretty fun. A lot of the days we worked pretty hard. We woke up at like 7 a.m. most of the time, breakfast really early. Throughout the day, we kind of just worked on the project. And even then we started building like friendships and stuff like that. And in the afternoon, we did stuff like bowling, we went to the amusement park, sketching in the city. Um, yeah, stuff like that. What else is there to it? Trying to think.
Did what you learned in your
Um,
A sessions, did that help you? Did camp kind of elaborate on those things? Did things like start to make more sense to you
yeah,
after?
yeah. The camp really helped a lot in terms of connecting and networking, especially with you guys and also with other students. I never really met anyone on the West Coast, so it was really interesting to see their perspective on a lot of things, especially the people from California. They had a couple wild statements, but I kind of just went along with it. But they were really cool though. From the biggest thing I would take away from like the Denver trip would be, again, like networking with all the people and getting to communicate with other people. I feel like the project was more or less, kind of the work life, but the social life is a much more enriching experience. Um, Again, because I never met people from the West Coast. Um, and since we were in a dorm environment too, I was literally about to go to college 2 weeks later. So that week was like an experiment to how I live in the dorm. And personally, that was the biggest contribution it had. Um, and also the project itself. Like the project really showed me how labs work in college, how they're like fast paced, so we have to get things out pretty quick. So yeah, that was my experience. I still talk to a lot of the people who were in the camp. We still have our little group chat. Um, and yeah, that was my experience. I'd
That's
probably be able to
awesome.
answer, yeah, I'd probably be able to answer it better if people ask me specific questions, but that was that
Yep,
was that was my summary.
that's awesome. That's perfect. And yeah, so Braden's on for a little bit more. If anyone has any questions, uh, for him about camp or anything like that, he can stay on for a little bit longer as well to talk, to help answer any of those. But it's been awesome. Like for me, it's been great with with students like Braden, because like I saw on LinkedIn, like he was looking for some kind of opportunity. So I was able to reach out to him. So he also has, like he was saying, a lot of extra contacts here at ACE. I'm going to talk a little bit about ACE Camp. I'm a big fan of camp. We've been doing it now in Denver for quite a few years. It's been big in the West. Like Braden said, he was one of the first, last year from the East Coast, we had 2 students and he was one of them coming and exploring all of the different things about camp. So as ACE grows, we are not just our high school mentoring organization. We have a lot of other things that we are supporting, in these camp and, year round, and things like that for ACE as we grow our program as well. So this is kind of an investment, and a lot of affiliates do give this out with their scholarships. They budget for it. They give it out at the awards events and things like that too to the students. We have, so a lot of the, we know that we're applying a lot of information on affiliates and everything that we're doing. So to help out with this camp, we have an interest form that we started last year that we can send. I will send it to you as your affiliate leaders, and you can send that out to your students. And then we gather those interest forms and then we'll send them back to the affiliate if that would be helpful. Some affiliates go ahead and do outreach on their own when they're looking for scholarships. They also just fill out an application for camp as well at the same time. So there's a lot of different ways to find campers if you're able to support them and send them out. This year, the timeline is always important. This year, we will need to know by about the end of March about how many students that you plan on sending. This is a number, so we don't need their full names at that time if it's, you're still kind of deciding, but that number that you would like for your affiliate, just go ahead and, Cassie, thanks for that question. The number allocated slots for each affiliate, just go ahead and reach out to me and let me know how many you think you might have. I've been taking a tally when people have been reaching out to me, but I think we should have plenty of spots for anybody that wants to go this year. For flights last year, I booked all the flights. Yep, sorry, Braden. He had the earliest one because he was coming from the East Coast. But we try to get all of the students in before about 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock because they start that day. They check into the dorms. They're off. They're out bowling that night, so they don't waste any time. They check in and they're starting. They're starting the program. We don't waste any time getting them there. A lot of parents are a little bit worried about their students flying. A lot of our campers are first-time flyers. So I have everybody's phone number and I am checking in with every student that morning. Sometimes it's a mentor that maybe is meeting them at the airport or the students are there. I'm in constant contact until they get on the flight. And then I'm in constant contact with Jeana's team on the Denver side because I can say, okay, she has the full schedule. As the students are there, we have pictures of where they need to go. And there's a big ACE flag for them to find that group. And then throughout the day, Jeana's team is taking the students from the airport to the campus on the train. There's a great train. If you ever go into Denver and need to get into downtown, I highly recommend taking the train. And that's what the students do. Some of them, it's their first time on like public transportation from an airport. So even just starting this whole process is opening their eyes to lots of different, new opportunities and things like that. And then once we do that, afterwards, we invoice the affiliates for the cost of the camp and the flights. And every year we do try to take off a little bit to help you out. We don't know how much that actually is going to be. And that isn't usually decided until summer, the budgets, and then you'll get that on your invoice as we, we send these out. Other than that, I just work very closely with affiliates. Each of these are done individually. So I'm happy to work with anyone on your team to make sure, like, if you want to send out the registrations, I'm in contact with each affiliate because everyone does it a little bit differently. Happy to have any calls with parents that are worried. When we get closer to camp, we will get the parents and the students on a webinar if they have any questions and things like that as well. And then with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Jeana so she can talk a little bit about the curriculum and the planning like that. And then if you have any other questions, please feel free to ask them.
Thanks, Paulette. So my name is Jeana. I am the program manager at CU Denver's College of Architecture and Planning. And I run all of our summer camps. So this will be my third year running the ACE summer camps. Then we had a little break during COVID, and then we had 2 or 3 years of camps before that. So what I wanted to share today, as you may know, we are running 2 sessions this year, hopefully, if we can fill those 2 sessions. So the first one will be June 24th through July 1st, and then the second one will be July 8th through July 15th. So this is Miro. So we used Miro for our virtual camp, but also for our in-person camp. And this is where this kind of served as a repository, and this is where the schedule lived. And I wanted to start off by showing you this board that we set up before camp started, that students were each given a little square and asked to introduce themselves. So it was an opportunity for students to kind of see who's coming to camp, where are they coming from, what are their interests. And then along with that, they also have the capability of making these little comments and kind of introducing themselves to each other before camp started. So I think it was fun to kind of peek in here and see the students interacting and talking about how long they've been in ACE, or sharing some of their sketching and sharing some of the projects that they worked on. Here's Braden's. Yeah, so it was just a fun way for students to introduce themselves. And this is also where we had some of our information on the overnight counselors and the teaching assistants. Again, hoping to hopefully ease some of the stress or concerns that students might have before joining camp. So these are some of our overnight counselors last year, teaching assistants, and then some of the administrative staff for camp. And next, I want to show you, and here, what we try to do, a lot of students are kind of concerned about who they're going to be rooming with in the dorms. So we send out, along with our packet, kind of orientation packet, a little survey about yourself so that we can try to match students with another student that may be a similar interests or similar need to go to bed early, wake up early, things like that. And then we posted all the roommate pairings here, so then students could also see who they were matched with and then reach out to their roommates before camp started. But what I wanted to show you is the camp schedule. And hopefully this is big enough for y'all to see. So camp will roughly follow the same outline this year. There may be some things that shift around. The final project will probably change a little bit, but it'll roughly look like this. So the first day, as Paulette said, students get in by the afternoon, and we immediately jump into a campus tour, camp orientation, dinner in the dorms, and then we take our students out bowling, which is a really great way for them to kind of break the ice and get to know each other. And then Sunday is when we start launching camp. We jump straight into kind of the academic portion of camp. So starting with some introductory lectures, some walking tours, looking at the history and the historical buildings in downtown Denver, introduction to 3D modeling. So this is where students get to jump into some of the labs like Braden mentioned. So at the College of Architecture and Planning, we have, of course, a computer lab, but we have a fabrication lab that includes laser cutters. We also have a wood shop, things like that. And if students are going to be using anything in the wood shop, they will be assisted with by our counselors and our teaching assistants. And then the second day, at least this past year, we went to visit Gensler, so one of the big firms that's here in Denver, and also where one of the lead instructors that's leading camp is an architect at Gensler. Then more of the program workshop. And I wanted to point out here that we did a couple-hour workshop with the engineering school. So while the College of Architecture and Planning is running and hosting the summer camp, we're trying to partner with the engineering school, and also we have a construction management and civil engineering department at CU Denver, and we're trying to partner with them as much as possible to incorporate that into the camp curriculum, because we know a lot of the students coming to camp aren't necessarily interested in architecture. And that's also something that we try to highlight in the final projects and the firm visits, site visits, things like that. We want to make sure that it covers all of ACE and not just architecture. And then in the evening, one of the activities that we had that Braden mentioned is an outing to the Eelchoos Amusement Park. And then the Tuesday is always a popular day. So we spend about half the day up in the mountains doing a sketching workshop, as well as a little bit of hiking for the students. I think that's a popular day because we spend a majority of the camp around campus in downtown Denver, and this is their opportunity to get out in nature and kind of see the site. And then we come back and work on our project, and then have a little bit of time and movie nights in the dorms. Oops, sorry, I don't have my mouse, it's a little finicky. And then we incorporate other firm visits, more time for their projects, some free time, more time on their projects. So that includes working in Rhino and the software and time to make their physical models. And then jumping to Friday, that's the final day, and that's when students wrap up their projects and when they do final reviews and project presentations. And this is also when we invite alumni, faculty, other architects, engineers, and other mentors and folks from ACE to come and watch the presentations. And then we kind of wrap up with a big dinner out and a little bit of souvenir shopping for the students. And then students will depart on that Saturday. And again, we assist with all the transportation to the airport. So whether it's taking students to the light rail, getting on the light rail with them, and then taking them through check-in, basically until they go pass through security. Or for example, we had a group from the West Coast that had really early flights this past year. And so we booked a shuttle for them and got them to the airport pretty early. So some of the other things that I wanted to show is, well, this one's fun. This is our model time lapse, and it's also on our camp website. And I think these also live on the website. But these are some of the highlights for the photos. So this is some of the brainstorming during the kind of lecture and studio time when the students were coming up with the project idea. discussing what they wanted to build in their vertical city. This is from the final presentation day where students were getting up in their teams and explaining their models and why they built what they did. And then afterwards, students set up all of their models in the room, and they were able to chat with some of the designers and faculty and other folks that came to see the presentations and get a little feedback, and also chat a little bit more about the specifics of their particular designs. This was part of a sketching in the city class where Michael Wright, he's one of the faculty at the College of Architecture and Planning, took the students out and taught them a little about perspective, sketching, sketch modeling, and the students had some time to sketch some of the Denver landscape and then provide feedback on each other's work. This is the day when we went up to the mountains. So we start off with a little, also another sketching type workshop before we let students loose and they kind of disperse amongst the hiking trail and do a little bit of sketching before we go on the hike. And this is students working during studio time. So it's really nice. The students are in the actual college's studio space. So this is where our own college students are taking their studio classes. It's pretty quiet in the summer, so the campers have free reign of the studio spaces, of the fabrication labs, and we're pretty much in the College of Architecture and Planning for all of the academic sessions. Group photo. Some of the sketches from the students. There's Braden. I think that photo was used a couple times for some stuff, ACE stuff. Presentations. The hike. Oh yes, I guess this is a good segue. I think this is the last picture into the dorms. So I know that's important for students to see. So the students will be staying in City Heights, which is now 2 years old, a residential home that is about a 5-minute walk from the College of Architecture and Planning, and it's on campus. So most of our students will be in a double room. So they'll be sharing with one other student, and there is a bed, a closet, a desk, linens will be provided. A few of the students, depending on how things kind of break out, may be in a triple room. Here's another photo of the layouts for the room. And there may be other conferences in the dorm rooms overlapping at the same time, but it's kind of nice. It's bustling, so there's almost all the rooms are full during the summer. And then the dining hall is also in the same building, so then students will have most of their meals in the dining hall that is attached to the dorm. And again, just a 5-minute walk, and there's always counselors or myself that are going around with the students. So I think that might be it. That was a lot of information. So just wanted to open it up again to questions, or Paulette, if there's anything that I missed that you wanted me to chat about.
No, I think you definitely covered it all. I did want to just reiterate that, over the years, so, like Jeana was saying, it is put on by the architecture, but we have definitely incorporated all of the ACE aspects into this camp. So there's a lot of other camp, and I think that's why it makes this camp so special, because there are a lot of camps that are architecture or engineering or construction based, but I haven't been able to find one that incorporates all of them, including, the trades and the building and having those connections. So that's one of the reasons why I'm very supportive of this camp. We do have a couple of questions. I know, so Gita has asked sometimes that her board asks how camp was. She doesn't really know how to answer, but this presentation, thank you, Jeana, is fabulous for everybody. And so we just want to know if she has some information. So what I usually share out with people are all the pictures. Like we have those linked. We have I don't know, a few years ago, I did like a camp book that kind of just highlights everything that we did. And I can share that out that they can flip through. And then I saw Angela answer. She says, she
Yeah.
asked all the students for a summary of their experience, written with some photos. And then she takes the link of photos that we provide and downloads for students. And then, kind of shares it out with her board like that. And she says she assigns students during camp to email her photos. That's right. She coordinates with her students before they go. So to make sure that they're sending her pictures, and she's actually posting sometimes while we are at camp.
Paulette?
Yes.
Jeana, can we have the link to what you just showed there? Because that just having the, what happens every hour, the days, the activities. I think a lot of the parents are just really nervous, like, what is this whole thing? And that presentation is like the most information I've ever seen about the camp. That was fabulous.
Yes, I would be happy to provide that. And I think Braden can speak to this. It's almost every minute of the day is planned. And while we do try to leave in a little bit of free time in the evenings, most students spent that going back to the studio to finish up their projects. And the photos that I shared were from this past year, and the projects change every year. So in the past, we've done students designed and built furniture for our outside balcony at the college. Students designed a kind of a stand outside workspace, a swing installation. So last year's was more of a model making, but it varies in terms of what the final project looks like.
Yeah, and we're recording this, so we can send this. We can send samples of the last couple of years of the curriculum, what we've done, if that's helpful for the parents to see. I know the parents are always concerned about the travel, getting to the airport, letting their student go onto a plane by themselves, all of that kind of stuff too. So, we're also here, and we want to make sure they know that we're in contact with them as they board the plane, and as soon as they get off, there are people at the airport with that. Someone has Raji has a question. They would like to know the student to counselor ratio. Jeana, do you want to talk about that?
So for the overnight portion, we have had 2 counselors staying in the dorms with the students, but in addition to those 2 counselors, there's also a residential advisor on each floor that is part of the City Heights dorms that is also serving as a counselor that oversees all of the different camps happening at the same time. And I know a lot of parents are concerned about access to the dorm, so students are all wearing these badges that not only indicate that they're part of ACE, but also gets them in and out of the building and into the dining hall. So overnight, just for the overnight portion, which typically I would say starts after the evening activities, so maybe 8 o'clock to 7 a.m. They have 2 counselors for all the students, and we're roughly like 34 students or so, and they're all paired up, and we do the buddy system. So each of the roommates has to kind of keep an eye out for their roommate, and we do a lights out at 10 and do a kind of follow up and check in all the rooms and make sure the students are in the rooms. And then during the day, there's a couple of teaching assistants, there's at least a couple student assistants. I'm there, a couple of instructors. There's a lot of us helping out at camp, basically starting from 7:30 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Yep, and I'm also floating around too, so the students have my cell phone, and I'm on those group chats. So I see when they're like, "Wait, someone's missing. Where are they? Oh, never mind, they're right here." So there is really conversations going on all day long, and into the night. And like the students were so excited last year, we would have to like get them out of the studios. We're like, you guys need to go to bed, get out of the studios, your projects will be fine, so it's just kind of like a real college experience. Like they don't want to leave, they want to be, with their friends, and they're doing all of these different, the projects and working on them and things like that too.
So saw another comment about the schedule again. I'm happy to share last year's schedule, and we probably won't have a 100% finalized schedule until maybe a month before camp, as we have to finalize visits with firms and site visits, and even the instructors are tweaking the project. And we'll definitely be sharing that out with the student orientation packet. So parents and students will see that final schedule before arriving at camp.
One of the cool things that happened last year, for example, so Gensler, Rebecca's from Gensler, that's her firm, and a lot of our students know Gensler. We've given out some scholarships and stuff. So one of the scholarship winners from Texas that had won a Gensler scholarship came to camp. And she just it just clicked for her. She's like, oh my gosh, this is so weird. I'm in this new city. I won this scholarship and now I have instructors and I get to visit this office. So it just really also opens up the students' eyes to say, that ACE is a national organization, that we have lots of help across the country for during high school, when they graduate, and beyond. We're really ramping up that alumni support as well. So it really just opens up their opportunities, their connections. And like Braden said, he's still talking to a lot of those folks, and I'm guaranteeing that they're going to be, ruling the AAC industry in a few years. The cost of the camp is it's $1,700 this year, and plus the flight. So it is quite a bit more than last year. With all the costs that are going up with everything, food, lodging, all of that kinds of things. This was the price that we were able to offer this year. So we know it's a little bit of a jump from last year. It's a lot, sometimes it's bigger than a lot of scholarships that we give. So I do recognize what a commitment it is to camp, especially for affiliates that have not really sent too many students to camp. Here, camp started in California probably, 10 years ago at least. So we've been sending students to camp for a long, long time from the West. We just opened this up to national, basically during COVID. We were about to open it up and then COVID. So we did do a virtual program, during that. And then last year was the first time that we had students coming from all across the country. And the travel is, so what happens at the end, I do book all those flights. And then when we do the invoicing afterwards, it has the camp cost plus the flight, and then any discount that we can offer. Last year, we did a discount of $200 per student. Like I said, I don't know what we can't offer this summer, but it's usually something along the way that we can offer for affiliates. Unfortunately, I don't have that number until after camp, so that doesn't really help too much with budgeting, moving forward. But I do understand that, it just also becomes affiliates that have been sending students to camp. They just start budgeting for it, during board meetings. They're like, okay, this is for scholarships, this is for camps, this is for other, all these other programs. So after a few years and you have a few students go, it does get a little bit easier to pitch to your boards, the cost of the camp. Oh yeah, Angela had this suggestion. So her board, a lot of her professionals have miles that they can donate to camp flights. And so some of her, they're going to try to see if they're able to provide some of those miles to some of their campers to offset those costs. So things like that, a lot of our, board members probably have a lot of miles that they use to travel and things like that. So that's something that, we're going to be pitching, trying to pitch out this year. It seemed like the flights from the Pacific Northwest, for whatever reason, seemed to be the priciest. They were even pricier than the student that came from Boston and from Pittsburgh, where Braden was. But those flights, and those folks like to travel, so those flights get booked up quite quickly as well. And so the earlier that you have your students confirmed, I start booking those flights as soon as we get those students. All right, well, it doesn't look like any more questions are coming in. Like I said, we will send, the deadline to give names. So we need the numbers by the end of March, but the names, especially if you're in Denver, we don't need those so soon because we don't need to have the flights, but the names, we understand that you might say, okay, we're going to budget for 3 students this summer, and then you're going to start doing the outreach. As long as I have that number confirmed by the end of March, we'll be able to, we don't need their names for probably a little bit longer because once we confirm everything, CU Denver will send out a packet. And that packet has lots of other extra things like insurance and, parent consent forms and all separate things as well. For the ACE side, we definitely need to make sure that student is registered in the ACE database and marked active before, we get them, the Denver information, which is usually what I usually follow up with the students on if they're not in there. All right. if nobody has anything else, like I said, we will, we'll put this on, we'll, put this recording out, and then I will be sending around an email with just a little bit more information. I'll get some schedules from Jeana as well, or maybe we can maybe just post those schedules and like samples of the Miro board. The Miro board was
Sure.
really fun
Mhm.
last year. We
Yeah.
all did it, before, and then, we got in there and I was like, oh, these folks are like really doing it up. And I was like, I had to redo my whole square because I was like, oh, I can't, this is not what I can put up for myself. So it was really fun. And, also meeting with the students on there beforehand, collaborating with them, and then seeing their comments to each other. Also, I thought was really fun. And then it really did give them a chance to meet each other before they got to camp, because even if you have students coming from the same affiliate, chances are they don't know each other unless they were on like the same team. So even if like, say, we usually send like, 5 students or something from LA, they probably don't know each other because they were on, a different team. So they get to come and meet each other as well. All right, I think with that, we will go ahead and end the webinar. I'm going to stop the recording and I can stick around for a little bit if anyone has any questions or comments, but thank you for joining today.